And a very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Issues and Attitudes. My name is Jeff Owens, Interim General Manager at WEIU. My co-host is DJ the DJ, Daniel Jones.
Happy Monday, everyone.
And our guest today is Jennifer Day Tariq, Executive Director at the Douglas-Hart Nature Center. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you coming in on the cold day. So let's talk a little bit about we had a press release a few weeks ago that Gary Bosky, a longtime friend of mine and WEIU's for that matter, is retiring from the board, and so they've named you Executive Director. So replacing Gary, what does that do for your job and new things that you'll be doing at Douglas?
Well, talk about pressure to fill Bosky's shoes. I mean, he was on the board before he was Executive Director. So he had a lot of insight as a financial manager, but also just farmland and just the scope of the organization, running a nonprofit. But I was also with the organization before being named executive director, so I was education director for 11 years. So at least I'm familiar with the organization, how a nonprofit's ran. I think we were able to develop, Bosky and I were able to develop a lot of good things for the foundation over the last 11 years together. And now it's my turn to look at the organization from a whole new scope and grow it in new ways under my leadership.
And under your, previous, job title there at Douglas-Hart, you brought a lot of activities in and a lot of new things in that I think people are really excited about. Talk a little bit about, the process of doing that and where we go from here.
Yes, so my first year, I kind of just ran everything, how it's always been done, and just learned the ropes, how did they do it before, and really just looked at how we could grow, what was missing from our programming and our education. So one of my favorite things to talk about is our summer camps. When I first started, we only ran 8 summer camps. Well, now we have over 75 different summer camps that we're able to offer to children and keep them at reasonable prices. So everybody has the opportunity to attend a summer camp there at the Nature Center. But we also introduced new festivals, like our Haunted Hike, which is one of our favorite festivals. We have lots of folks that come out for that. We also introduced Winterfest, and we have Fall Fest, of course, some different festivals going on. So those are some of the bigger things that we were able to accomplish.
Daniel?
For those of us who may not be familiar with the Douglas-Hart Foundation and Nature Center, can you give us a little bit of background?
Absolutely. So our founder was Helen Douglas-Hart, and she started the foundation back in 1963, and she started with Friendship Garden. So it's not just the Nature Center. Most people associate we only own the Nature Center, which is the hub. It's like the mama of the foundation, absolutely. But we do have Friendship Garden, which was actually across from Helen's house. So that was kind of her baby. She loved tea gardens, rose gardens. Then, of course, we have the Nature Center. Now we also own a third property, which is the Whiteside Garden here in Charleston, which we acquired in 2018. So the foundation, Helen passed away in 1991, so she left an endowment in the foundation in the hands of a board of directors. So it's a team of volunteers in our community who serve on the board, and then ran by an executive director, and then we have a staff of 10. So we have the 3 properties and our board running the organization.
Now that it's winter and we're in the middle of COVID, what's going on now at the Nature Center, and tell us the operations?
So it is a little quiet right now, but we always like to boast our trails are open 365 days of the year, sunrise to sunset. Our visitor center is still closed, but we plan to reopen that this spring. But we still have opportunities going on. We have different volunteer opportunities that folks can take advantage of. We're working on our greenhouse right now, so those are some opportunities folks can sign up for. But some of our programming is still in session. We have our clubs going on, Bird Club, we have Care Club for high schoolers, our homeschool groups, and we are just so ready for warm weather to be back so we can get programmings going back in person.
Now, obviously, it's really going to be cold for the next week or maybe even 2 here in Central Illinois. Will you see people still out on the trails and walking the place right now?
Yes, we have our regulars day in and day out, and I thought, no, they're not going to come out. It is cold. I don't blame them if they're not out. I saw their car in the parking lot this morning. They're out there. They are dedicated. With our trail walkers, it's thousands of people that will come out and use those trails, even with their pets, their dogs. And I will say the silver lining to 2020, it was a tough year for all of us. We had record number of people out on our trails in 2020.
Yeah, it seems like biking and hiking and walking, things like that, have really picked up in all of Coles County, so that's really neat. I know that you talked a little bit about COVID, but now that the visitor centers, closed during the day-to-day operations? I mean, if people want to contact us, the numbers and everything, you're still having somebody in place for that?
Yeah, all of our staff are still reporting in. So our education team is doing some virtual programming for folks, but they're still available. We have our volunteer coordinator, office manager still available, and our conservation team is sometimes outdoors, not on a day like today. But yeah, we're still out there doing all of our habitat improvement restoration like we normally would.
Okay.
You mentioned earlier a little bit about volunteering. How has your volunteering opportunities changed since the start of the pandemic, and has it kind of increased or decreased as far as involvement?
Unfortunately, it has decreased. Some people were a little cautious, and rightfully so, but we kind of adapted what we offer for folks for volunteering-wise. We created some solo opportunities where they can just come in on their own time, take care of some projects, and we had some take advantage of that. We even had different at-home projects. You know those projects you stack on your shelf, like one day I will get to this. We had volunteers, take them home and work on them for us, so we had even some new volunteers. So to have new volunteers approach us during COVID was definitely a positive as well. Overall, our numbers, we're a little bit lower because we did have to decrease the opportunities, but there's still a lot going on. But and even now, like I said, that greenhouse challenge, folks can help us get our starter plants ready in the greenhouse. So still lots of opportunities for volunteers.
People new to the community who've never been, give us directions and what they can expect when they make their first visit to Douglas-Hart.
So we are located right off Lerna and DeWitt, just outside Mattoon. Everything is free. I think that's probably one of the biggest questions. Is there a paid admission to visit Douglas-Hart? It is free to the community. That was one of Helen's wishes, is to always be free. So we have lots of parking. We actually have access to the bike trail. So if you are biking in between Mattoon and Charleston, you can have access to the bike trail there. To go inside the visitor center once it's reopened, that's free as well. Just our programs have some small fees associated with them to offset the costs. But we have about a little over a mile of trails. Everything is very flat, limestone, handicapped accessible. We have lots of amenities that I think would surprise folks. We have a campfire, picnic area, outdoor classroom. We have a pond that folks like to feed the fish, beautiful wetland with an overlook, and the nature play area. That's really a hot spot if you have a family with young kids. It even has a zip line, so if you haven't checked it out, you need to come visit the nature play area.
There you go. When it gets nicer, I guess you could talk now. What are animals and wildlife now, animals and wildlife in the summer? What can people expect to hopefully see at Douglas-Hart?
Well, I like it right now with the snow on the ground. I probably saw 10 different animal tracks just walking. I walked around the visitor center this morning, so it's a great opportunity to see different wildlife. I did see raccoon and squirrel and a couple different bird tracks this morning, but right now there's a lot of bird activity, obviously. Our winter birds, cardinals, blue jays, juncos, chickadees, all sorts of good little birds. Like the seed, we definitely put out the bird seed every day to make sure that they're taken care of. But you would be surprised. We have seen fox and coyote on our property. I remember leading a Boy Scout program one time, and I was walking out there, and here comes a coyote sneaking around the wetland. I mean, the odds of usually seeing them are very rare, but to have a whole group actually see it, usually we just find the tracks a day later or something. So lots of different wildlife diversity out there.
I know one thing, sorry, Dan. One thing that I've noticed a lot, people posting pictures on social media, not just at Douglas-Hart, but have you seen eagles out there? The bald eagle has made such a great comeback in this country. I know there's a bunch at Lake Sarah down in Effingham, but have you seen them at Douglas-Hart?
We have not seen them from Douglas-Hart. Usually the way bird counts go is if you see them near the property, the closest they have been is near the airport. So
Okay.
It's pretty close, but never actually any nesting on the property. We do have resident Cooper's hawks that live on the property, and we've had great horned owls nest on the property.
Okay.
I'm glad you mentioned Boy Scouts a little bit earlier. Can you tell us about the work you guys do with Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts?
Absolutely. So we are big team players, community partners. So we love having 4-H, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. So our education team, we partner with the local organizations. We have a new initiative starting with Boy Scouts. So we offer all their badge programs that we typically would. We have a new initiative where high school scouts, particularly Boy Scouts, it's almost like an internship. They can shadow us for a couple different programs and learn what it's like to have a career in conservation or environmental education. And with Girl Scouts, we're partnered with the Southern Illinois Council, so everything gets filtered through them. So we get girls coming from, hour and a half away to do different programs with us. So we're a hot spot for Scouts for sure.
We're talking to Jennifer Day Tariq. She's the executive director at Douglas-Hart Nature Center today. Now that you're the new executive director, now everybody's going to say, well, what are we going to do next? What's on the horizon expansion at Douglas-Hart?
Oh, I dream big. If anybody knows me the last 11 years, I dream big. I go outside the box. I'm ready for something big. Some of the things down the road, of course, I'm going to say this year, it's going to be quiet for a year or two as we come off 2020, but one of my goals is a remodel of the visitor center. It is the original visitor center. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's very cozy, very homey. But I would love to update it with new exhibits. Just give it a fresh look and feel to it. It's original from 1988. So let's bring it forward a little bit. Let's get some new educational designs that kind of fit with what the schools are teaching about with all these field trips that we see. That is probably one of my biggest goals, is to update the visitor center, the inside, with new exhibits.
You said you had some animals that, or birds that lived on the property. Now, do you have your own, any animals or something that are property of Douglas-Hart that are kind of like your, I guess, pets, for lack of a better way to say it, or maybe that's the best way to say it?
Yes, we do have some animals. We call them educational animals that we're able to use with programs. We technically have a pet as well. We have a resident cat, Dexter, that we did adopt from the animal shelter. We fully support adopting animals from the shelter versus breeding animals. But our educational animals, we have a rabbit that we use for different programs, a salamander. Most of these are native animals, although we have a few exotic animals. We do have a tarantula that we used a couple years ago for a library program. The kids have nicknamed him Curly Fry because he's a curly-haired tarantula. He's about the size of my hand when we got him. He was probably about the size of a quarter, so she's definitely grown in size, but very docile. And so we do a lot of trainings to learn how to handle these animals and work with these animals. Obviously, we try to teach about things that are found locally, but it's fun to bring some different things like curly hair. We also have a Madagascar hissing cockroach, something you would never find around here. But it's good to actually compare. You think about our cockroaches here, and then you show them one the size of your thumb, and the kids are like, they don't live around here, do they? Nope. But it's fun to kind of compare and contrast with these animals.
How do you make the decision of when, or will you make the decision of when to kind of open up in the spring, and it will based on the state, or will that be the board's decision, or how will that work?
We have always been following whatever the mitigations are. We want to be respectful of the policies that are in place here, but we're doing programs at the same time. So having the visitor center open and running programs, there was just an influx of different people in the building. So it was easier to keep it closed while we did programming and had different kids in the building. So we just kind of looked at it as an extra safety measure. Things are rolling back and looking good, so we fully expect to open this spring, and as long as mitigations are in place to do so, we're going to reopen and get people back out there. Yeah.
Is there a way for people to get involved as far as membership programs? I know you spoke a bit about volunteering, but are there any membership programs you guys provide?
Yes, I love members. I'm so glad you brought that up. So one of the things that I talked about was Trails Open 365, right? Memberships fully support that. You can have a membership as low as $25 for the entire year. We have different levels, so if you want a few more perks, you can go for a higher membership. One of our memberships, if you go the $100 level, you get free plants at our plant sale at Earth Day. And actually a lot of folks take advantage of that because they want the free prairie plants. These are native plants that are supposed to be grown here and start little pollinator habitats. So a lot of people up for that $100 range. And again, it's good for the whole year. You get our newsletter, you get discounts on programs. So lots of good benefits with membership. And you can find all that on our website.
I think also, you have internships, right?
Absolutely.
You partner with Eastern, Lakeland, Illinois. How's that work?
Everybody.
Okay.
Everybody, yes. Definitely EIU and Lakeland are our two biggest partnerships. We've had partnerships with U of I, even SIU, have some internships, but we are open to any kiddo, any college student who is looking for an internship. And it doesn't have to be conservation or education. It could be marketing. It could be nonprofit management or business. We've really expanded our internship program this year. So we have a website completely dedicated to internships. It's not just during the summer. It can be any semester that works for the student. We are advocates of paid internships when possible. It's a little rocky year this year, budget-wise, but we feel we can have more diverse applicants if we can reimburse them. So any type of internship, they can just apply online, click of a button. We'll review their applications, get them in and interviewed. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's really neat. Mostly with paid. Everybody loves paid internships. I got lost there for a second. Is there like a favorite place on the site that you just say, that's kind of my place when I want to get away or think of something or escape from the staff or people?
Escape from my staff, yeah.
Trust me, I know. Yes, I have one here. So
yes. I do, but I think it's everybody else's favorite spot. I love to go down to the pond or the wetland, but the wetland has a gazebo. I love to that's a quick walk. Sit inside the gazebo there near the wetland, look at different wildlife, and it's just kind of a great just thinking spot. Just take a quick lunch break and hike down there and just kind of collect my thoughts. The other one would be the pond, but like I said, I think that's everybody else's favorite spot to go as well.
You said you did some virtual programs with some of your groups and camps. How fast did you have to set that up, and how'd that work?
Real fast.
Everybody.
I mean, super fast. We learned real quick. We were very surprised as we networked with other nature centers and like-minded organizations that some of them chose not to do virtual. Obviously, our mission is to get people connected outdoors with nature, but we didn't want to miss that opportunity. We have such a strong following in our community. We wanted to make sure that we were still connected with them, doing our education. So we learned really quick how to do our virtual programs. Even led a few workshops on others and what worked for us, what didn't work. So we shifted all of our monthly programs to virtual. We even offered a few summer camps virtual, which at first we were like, no, we don't want to do that. Summer camps is about getting dirty and being hands-on. But those kids that were not comfortable to be in person, that was an opportunity to still learn and connect with us.
Okay.
Can you tell us about some of the programs you have coming up?
Yes, so this March, again, we hope to be back in person. So we have all of those monthly clubs. So homeschool, we have a really large homeschool group that meets the first week of the month. And we have Bird Club for adults. They meet the last Tuesday of every month with usually a guest speaker. So we have a really good following with that. We have a couple different high school programs, which I think is an important niche. The elementary kids, they come out to all the fun stuff, summer camps, and they hit middle school, high school, and they're like, nah, we don't want to, we're too cool for summer camps, we're too old. So we wanted to create some opportunities for them. So we do have the Nature Nuts Kids Club, and that's for kids who are kind of advocates. They do some fun activities, but they actually manage an area at the Nature Center. They're responsible for keeping our pine tree trail. So they do all the plantings, removing invasives, and they do different activities for the Nature Center. They've hosted a murder mystery. They've hosted a trivia night. So they're very involved with the Nature Center itself. So we kind of see them always staying connected. We also have Care Club for high schoolers. So that we had about 20 to 30 in that group. And then, of course, COVID hit. But these kids are ones that are more animal-minded. Maybe they want to be a veterinarian or a tech of sorts. So they are learning to care for those animals that I mentioned earlier, those educational animals. They learn how to care for them, what their enclosure should entail, how to handle them. And so they are actually able to work with those animals for our educational programs or festivals. Maybe they're getting the animal out for the different festival. So those are a few of the things coming up, our monthly programs that we have. But we have spring break classes coming up. I cannot believe it's almost spring break already.
It is.
So we'll have those spring break classes run just like summer camps. Very hands-on, crafts and games, just great to be, just to social interact, get outside with nature. And then before you know it, summer camps will be here.
There. I want to go back to Helen a little bit. Helen Douglas-Hart, who started the foundation. What have you, in your process of the last 11 years, learned about her? And can you tell us what kind of person she was? I mean, we know what she's did, but a little bit more insight.
She was remarkable. I wish I had the opportunity to meet her. I've read over lots of her journals and just kind of got an insight from her. She grew up right outside between Mattoon and Charleston, grew up on the farm. But she was very strong-willed. She knew exactly what she wanted. She was just very ambitious. Loved birding. She had a passion for our farm community. But she also wanted to make sure there was natural areas preserved. So she had this love for farming, but wanted to make sure natural areas. Douglas-Hart just fits that perfectly. When she started the Douglas-Hart Nature Center, she purchased that farmland. It was 35 acres originally. We're 70 now. She would tell them where to plant trees and to make trails. So she would walk, and the tractor and the men would follow her. So if that doesn't paint a picture of what type of woman she was.
She was the boss.
She was the boss, absolutely. But she always, she was a businesswoman, so she always wanted more. And so I kind of feed into that is, okay, we've taken it so far, but she always wanted to make sure the Nature Center was accessible. She always wanted to do more. So I have to make sure, okay, where's the do more? Where's my do more going to come in? What can I achieve, what can I complete for her vision for the next step for the foundation?
Does she still have family members that are around, or do you know, is there anything?
She does not. She never had kids of her own. She did outlive 2 husbands, so there's some of those family members, but there's no family actually left in the area. So it was all left to the foundation, yeah.
You talked a little bit about some of the kind of general public's favorite spots. Is there a spot that you feel that doesn't get a lot of love?
Ooh, that doesn't get a lot of love. We have some crossover trails. So we have the mile loop, but there's some crossover trails that probably a lot of people just like to do the main loop and just kind of miss out on those inner trails a little bit. But sometimes there's some cool stuff hiding in there. That's where I've spooked a couple deer actually on those.
Oh, really?
I think they know that those interior trails are a little less
Not as
used,
much
and
populated.
so I've actually seen good wildlife when you take those trails.
I know a couple years back, and I can't remember the guest's name, it was on Issues and Attitudes, but they were talking about some invasive plant species that had hit Coles County. Have you had any out there, and how have you dealt with that?
Unfortunately, yes. Invasives are always going to, I think, be an issue if you have natural areas that you're trying to restore. So our mission is to restore habitat prior to European settlement. So what did it look like before maybe the pioneers moved in? So it's mostly an oak hickory forest with the prairie. But unfortunately, with settlement, we have some invasive species like garlic mustard. That's one you're going to see in the springtime, and it has little white blooms on it. And when it releases seeds, it's releasing thousands of seeds. So it will take over an area just like that, which, yes, it's a plant. We think plants are good, but with thousands of seeds going into a habitat, it doesn't allow anything else to grow. It'll just take over. And so we want diversity of plants in a habitat. Another one that we have to tackle is bush honeysuckle. So we do have lots of that. Now that has more of a woody stem, so we do a lot of cutting and spraying to eliminate the honeysuckle in our forest. Those are the main 2 that we do have to work on.
It's not too bad. I know that Charleston had an issue a while back, and I can't remember what it was, but it was I'd never heard of it before, and they were talking about that. You said a little bit about the greenhouse right now, the challenge. What do you get? What do you grow? Do you grow plants, or is there any food, vegetables, or anything in there as well?
Yeah, so we mostly it is prairie plants that we grow ourselves. So each fall we go out and collect seed on our own prairies and also prairies in the community. Folks that have their own prairie allow us to collect. So we have to prep the seeds. We call it stratifying them. And then we actually plant them in our greenhouse. So there's thousands of plants that are just going to go right back into our prairie. But we do have a children's garden outside the greenhouse. And we use those with scout programs, field trips, and we grow vegetables, fruits and vegetables in there. So that's that learning component of where our food comes from. So that's another aspect of our mission that we do as well. Yeah.
Are there any special plants that people can only see at the Nature Center?
Good question.
That is a good question. So at the Nature Center, you're seeing mostly native plants. And so a lot of folks maybe have never seen a prairie in real life, right? So a prairie is an endangered habitat, more endangered than the rainforest. It used to be covered in Illinois and parts of the Midwest. You don't see a lot of prairie anymore. So if you've never seen a prairie, you're going to see lots of unusual plants in the prairie itself. But if you really want to see rare and endangered plants, you're going to go to the Whiteside Garden. That's our newest property. Like I said, we acquired in 2018. It has not opened to the public yet. It's going to open this spring. Yep. And we've been working really hard to get it ready for the public. So it has a whole story in itself. It was actually Dr. Wesley Whiteside, a EIU professor here. That was his residence and his hobby. He was a botanist, and just one day he started planting. And it's several acres of just beautiful and rare plants, even common plants, but it wraps all around his house. So you're going to see lots of unusual plants there that not even botanical gardens around here would have. So we've been working to turn his residence into a visitor center. So yeah, there's a lot to do there, making the bathrooms accessible, putting in ramps, working on exhibits, but making the trails accessible. So we have a creek with bridges and flattening the trails and putting in ramps as well. So we hope to open it this spring that you can see some of those unusual plants.
Oh, cool. That sounds really neat. So, you're going to have to let us know when that is. We either have you back or we'll get the press release out and go for it. We just got about a minute and a half left. We're talking to Jennifer Day, Tariq, Executive Director at Douglas-Hart Nature Center. We're going to ask you some rapid-fire questions. You can answer these too, Daniel, all right?
Okay.
So I'm trying to make them as much nature animal as I can. Your favorite animal?
Snow leopard.
Elephant.
Do you like snakes?
I do.
No.
All right. Favorite flower or plant, I guess?
Purple coneflower.
Lavender.
Favorite tree? Is there a tree, like oak tree?
Gotta be an oak tree.
Christmas tree.
Oh, good one there. I like that one. Would you ever make camping, like regular camping, available at Douglas-Hart? Like family could come out and camp?
I'm gonna have to pass on that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Same.
Do you have your own current pet, not Dexter the cat?
I do not. I count Dexter as mine.
All right. I'm assuming not.
I don't have any
since you're in
pets, no.
college. All right. You grew up in Beecher City. Tell us one thing about Beecher City.
Farming.
We have a student from Beecher City this semester here.
Really?
Yeah,
Fantastic.
There you go. You grew up, tell us, with farming for no, you don't. Thank you so much for coming in today in the call. We appreciate it, and we wish you best of luck, and hopefully you'll get reopened real soon, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Everybody have a great day. We are
EIU. WEIU.